Join me today. Hi, Serena here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Now, most people don't think of watercolors as a medium for abstracts, but their transparency and quick drying time allows for some different possibilities. Join me today as I experiment with making some simple watercolor abstracts. Now, many abstract painters twist the world around them, basing their work on things like faces or nature, but today I'm going to explore more geometric or non-representational forms, which are easier for a beginner. They're a lot of fun, and they can be colorful because you're not restricted by what you're thinking of as representational colors. So you can go all over the place. You can use really bright colors, which I like. Now today I'm using the Hanamulla paper in cold press. It's 300 GSM 140 pounds. It's 100% cotton, and I've divided it into 3 different sections so we could try 3 different things, which will be fun. And I'm using a combination of Schmenke watercolors and Turner watercolors. Now, one of the things I wanted to do was to take advantage of my materials that I do have. One of them I have is a 1/2-inch brush. And I wanted to see where that would lead me as far as design and painting. And it almost wants to dictate what type of design you can use. So let me start with a nice blue here. Now the Helio Turquoise, let's try that with just kind of a flat brush and move across the page like this at right angles. I'll use the brush itself to make my right angles. And since I'm running out of paint there a little bit, you can always go back and redo it. But I want to use it as a guide to make the pattern very square. And I'm going to do another one here. Of course, I'm not very level here. It looks like it's off a little bit, but that's okay. All I'm doing is mixing colors. I'm making the colors work for me a little bit here. I've got to go at an angle here because I'm trying to do it right-handed on the left side of the page. Normally I'd just twist the page around to face me a little easier. And I don't want to go off too far. I could go right off the page, but I think I'll do something like this, right there. And I don't want to make it look like a letter, but just like that. And just balance it out a little bit as you see fit. If you think you need to balance something out, add another odd color or shape, go ahead. You know, you're having fun, you're experimenting. You want to play with it a little bit. Needs something here, doesn't it? I could do this, juxtapose a shape there and there. Just like that. Just to have fun with it. Now I'm not making very sharp edges, you see. That would look probably better with a sharper edge, but I'm just playing around with it for now. And what I'll do with this, I'm going to add 2 more colors, I think. I've got a blue mixed already. This is I think a phthalo blue, one of my favorites. And I'll just go right off that. It's not much of a different color, but it's a little deeper. I want to get it all the way to the end there. Oops. And this is what's nice about the watercolors, is that they're transparent. If you're using a transparent color, there are opaque watercolors, but of course you can use, whichever ones you want. For this, transparent I think is a better choice. Transparent colors. I don't want to really go all the way up to the end there, but I do want to have some interaction here between these 2 shapes, kind of like an L shape. There we go. Alright. And just add a little more to it here. We need something across here. Or up. Maybe halfway through. How's that? Just play around with the things that you have, you know? Like I said, the brush itself dictated that I should use it this way. You don't have to. You can use whatever you have. Certainly a round brush is fine too. And you may come up with a completely different design than I have. I think I'll go across here just to give it a balance of color. And then that was a better stroke. The smaller strokes seem to work a little better on this. And bring it down here. Doesn't have to be exactly in the middle. And in fact, because these are watercolors, you can let them dry. One of the things I can do is let them dry and then layer over and over. But for the sake of the demo here, I just want to do this quickly so you get an idea of some of the possibilities that are available to you. Now here comes a very bright color, and I've got to be careful how I lay this down because I don't want to overpower the existing color scheme. But I do want to add some of this bold color to it. I think right. See, and there's where you're seeing some of that lovely transparency. It just pulls up the color underneath and just accentuates it. It's just very, very nice. I think I'll keep with a vertical theme here. Oops, I didn't want to put that on the page just yet, but that's okay. And I want a little over where I wanted to go, so let's really make it over. Otherwise it'll look like a mistake rather than on purpose. But I'm loving these colors here. I really do. And let's see. You don't want to limit yourself by saying, well, I'm only going to do verticals. But I've already done that, so I've got to live with it. Of course, I could go back and do some horizontals, and that would look just as good. But I think this is giving it a little bit of an accent where it needs, and then we're going to just tie this one up, because I think you get the idea of what the possibilities are with something like this. In fact, that one I think I'll extend down there. That looks a little more interesting. And then this is begging for something across. It really is, but I think I'll ruin the look of it if I do that. So I'm just going to add another little blip of color here. And I think it needs one little blip up here to balance it out. Just like that. And that's all I'm going to do. I don't want to overwork it. Sometimes if you play around with it, fuss with it too much, you can just overwork it, and that defeats the purpose. You know, this should be fun, spontaneous, and just enjoyable. So that's just an example of using some materials that you have already and letting them dictate what you should do with them. Now, another thing you can do with this is just play around. Just play with your colors there. And I'm going to take a round brush and some purple paint, and I'm just going to draw some odd designs here. Nothing representational, just, well, it looks like Snoopy's head, but just to play around a little bit. And I like the fact that that wide brush before that flat gave me a guideline to the thickness of my line. This I'm really having to work to twist and turn the brush and go over it again in order to make an even line. But that's okay too. This all trains your hand. Trains your hand and your eye. Trains your hand to try to coordinate with your eye. Your eye wants to do something and your hand doesn't want to do it. But you can use the curves too to your advantage if you like that. The lines don't all have to be the same thickness. You know, play with it a little. It's fun. And enjoy the texture of the paper too. You see how nice that is? It's just a nice texture of paper here. It doesn't have to be all straight lines. I need something up there too. So I'm just going to wind one in from this end. And I'm going to do that. And kind of have an end of this in here. Oops, I need a little bit more water in there. I'm running out. Always mix enough paint ahead of time. That's one thing I think I'm guilty of. I don't mix enough paint and then I run out in the middle of my project, and that's just not what I wanted. Just hint at that continuing on there, and that's sometimes enough. So just to play around with it a little bit. Now, the third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use actually my water container. I have a water container here that's a bit of a square container. So I thought I would dump the water and make a design in the last panel here. So let me cut that and we'll come back in a few moments. Alright, now in this section, what I'm going to do is take that water glass and just go ahead and draw some shapes. I'm just going to draw around it like that. I shouldn't use such a heavy hand, in fact, but I'm so used to drawing with a heavy hand. Oh, that's way too heavy. Alright, but that's okay. Just play around with it. Put the shapes in different... I like the glass because you can actually see around it a little bit. There we go. Around there. That one skipped a little bit, but that's okay. But even a soup can would be a wonderful guide for you. Or a regular glass, bottom of a glass. And you can play with these little shapes. Looks like they're kind of tumbling down the hill here. But that's all there is to it. And now I'll come back and fill up my water glass, and paint it. Alright, so now I'm going to fill in those shapes there. Now, I don't want to waste paint, so I'm going to use the colors that I've already got mixed up, but we'll have some fun with them. It'll be nice to layer them over, and I'm going to do it rather quickly, so I'm not going to worry about being in or out of the lines. And I've done a lot of abstracts in oils, so I'm used to working with oils, but not with watercolor in abstracts. And this is the beauty here, that you see you can layer them, and they have that beautiful translucent quality about them. They're just lovely to work with. I think I'll go ahead and do this one also. Now we can do one of two things. We can either layer these so that the colors bleed into one another, but I want to kind of keep the shape, the square shape. I kind of like that square shape, and I don't want to mess with it. So what I'll do is I'll work on this one here, and then I'll go ahead and let it dry for a while. I'm going to use the lighter blue, or the darker blue here, and I'll save the purple for the middles. I'll kind of do this one and this one, in the mid-blue. I love this paper. Of course, if you're using 100% cotton, you can't go wrong with your watercolors. You're going to almost be guaranteed a good result. Well, I can't say that, but it does have a lot to do with skill and practice, but it makes your final result easier to attain. You're not fighting with your supplies. Please don't fight with your supplies. If you can, get some good quality supplies, good brushes, good paint, and definitely good paper. If I were to be asked what's the most important, I would say the paper is the most important. So see if you can invest in that whenever you can. Alright, I'm going to let that dry for a while, and then we'll come back and work some more. Alright, so we're back, and now I'm going to put in a little more color in this spot right here. I hope I've let it dry enough. It's kind of a little damp, but not terribly so. Alright, so that's where I want it. Oh, I'm not following the line very well. It's hard to see in that one spot. Okay, there we go. This will be a little easier over here. Get more paint. Keep this going. I don't want to let it dry out. That's the thing with watercolor. You don't want to let it dry out in one given spot. You'll get that funny dry area that you can't really do much to repair. Now see, this is a little bit more opaque of a color, and you're not going to get that wonderful transparency on it. So keep that in mind when you're choosing colors if you have a design that's overlapping like this. If you want to see that transparency between the shapes, you want to make sure that you're using a transparent color. But what I want you to do, and what I want you to get out of this while that's drying, is to really just be creative. Play with the supplies and tools that you have. You know, see what the different possibilities might be for things that you have in the house. Like, I just took a rubber band and ran it around some Q-tips. All you have to do is dab them in a bit of paint. I'll show you this while that's drying, and you can just play with them. You need a flat surface. You can just play with them. You know, just play with them. Mix them around. I mean, look at the effect that gives you. That's an interesting effect. If you use different colors, you could even blend it in there and layer it, layer it, and layer it, which is kind of nice. Which is something nice you can do with watercolors. But just something simple like Q-tips. You know, don't spend a lot of money. Be creative. Use what you've got. Use different colors. Don't be stuck with a palette that you always use. Most people gravitate toward one color or a group of colors. Try something different. Try all browns. Most people don't even use browns except when it's warranted, like for tree trunks or an animal, something like that. But try it in abstracts. You'll be surprised how the nuances look, how the different shades look, and the different hues. Now, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the icon, leave me a comment. I really appreciate that. Now, I'm going to let this dry a little bit longer, and then we'll come back and finish up. Alright, so we're back, and this is relatively dry to the touch. So I'm going to add the final color here, which is purple, of course. You've seen me use it in the other panels. Just going to fill it in here. Okay, I don't want that drying over too much. I want to see some of that color there underneath. This is a little bit of a transparent color, which is nice. I like that. And then I've got the one down here to do. Oops, I went way over the edge, so what I'm going to do is kind of make this match. So see, I make mistakes very often. Just try to fix them as best you can if you run into the same situation. But, you know, this is practice. This is to see what you might like to do. I hope I've inspired you to have fun with your art. Let's see how it looks. Remember to subscribe, and I will see you next time. There you are.